We've got everything built on here. It's not light, that is for sure. One thing I want to do is rig it up on an easy rig and see how it works like that.
This is a CineD review, supported by B&H and CVP.
Today we're going to look at the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro. Now when I heard that it can carry a payload of 14.3 pounds, which is 6.5 kilograms, I was really excited to check it out. Now if the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro can live up to its specs with this price point, it'll be really impressive. There's a couple scenarios that I wanted to check out. I wanted to try it with my A7S II rig, which is 5 pounds, which is 2.3 kilograms. But then I also wanted to try it with my Varicam LT rig, which comes in at 14 pounds, which is 6.3 kilograms, just below the maximum weight that's stated for this crane. So I wanted to see how it handled both. Now, the reason why I wanted to buy my A7S II, because I know it would be lightweight and easier to carry around. So this is definitely very manageable. So I actually already put it to a real-world test. I shot an EDM event, and I was surprised that I was able to shoot for about 20 minutes without taking a rest. So it's definitely, light and doable. Actually, a few times I was able to put the handle kind of on my waist to take off some of the pressure and actually to help focus. It was a really solid gimbal to use for that event. I first discovered the Zhiyun CRANE 3S at a music video shoot that I was the DOP of. So my second camera operator brought his Zhiyun CRANE 3S and it performed really well, and I just liked the ergonomics of it. So like instead of holding your gimbal out like this, you hold it in line. So you're holding it like this, you can have it kind of braced up against you for another point of stability, and it seems like a little less strenuous to hold it that way. After the music video shoot, I did some research online to check out the CRANE 3S. And what I found out is there was a CRANE 3S Pro version, and that had a lot of little extra features that really was attractive to me. So what it has extra, it has an extra battery which can power it for longer and actually can give it a little more torque for the heavier cameras. It also has a separate D tap out at the bottom, which is handy for powering any monitors or any other accessories you got. And it comes with a wireless transmitter, so you can wireless transmit your video. And it comes with a wireless focus and zoom. So all those features are what make this the Pro versus the standard CRANE 3S. Okay, so now I'm going to rig the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro to my Varicam LT. Now I haven't done this yet, so let's see how it works. If you want to put on larger cameras, you need to extend this arm. So it comes with an extender piece, which I'm going to put on right now. Okay, so I have a basically built here. Now I got to balance it. So I'm honestly, a little bit nervous about this because this is a heavy camera. Let's see what kind of clearance we have here. Oh, don't have the clearance. So I'm going to lose this battery. I'm going to run the power externally. So let's see if we have the clearance now. So we're going to barely have the clearance if I take off the control. Alright, so I got my Varicam LT rigged on the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro. Now, I'm not going to lie, it was tough. It took me several hours to figure out the right configuration that would work. But I got it working. So a couple things that I had to compromise on is that I had to lose the battery off the back. So even when I do it using a little small battery, it would just barely hit the back here. So I couldn't get that to work. Another thing is the Varicam LT doesn't have an HDMI out, but I do have an HDMI to or an SDI to HDMI converter, but for some reason the transmitter didn't like it. So my monitor, it worked fine, but the transmitter didn't like it. So anyhow, I'm running an SDI cable to my monitor. So it's best not to have any cables running off, but this is what I had to do, and I got it to work. Okay, so another thing that I had to compromise on is, you might have saw it first, I had a 24-70 lens on here. It was still the same thing, just a little too heavy, so it made the back come out too far, and even without a battery, it would hit right here. So I had to put on my shorter, lighter lens, which is actually better for gimbal moves. This is the 16-35. So I'm not going to go over the balancing of the Crane 3S. There's a ton of videos out there on that, but just what you got to know is that, of course, you balance it this way first, and then you go straight up and balance it. When you are doing this, if you have cables, you got to be careful of your cables because that will influence it. And then you lock it off and then balance the other ways. So you balance your roll, and then you'll balance your pan, finally. It's not light, that is for sure. But you certainly, it's certainly handling the camera. I put the motor on high. There's also an ultra setting too, but right now I have it on the high. So I did some tests just walking around the office here. Sorry, the lighting's not that great. For a second there, I wasn't sure whether it was going to work. I thought it was going to be a fail, but I do have it working. It is balanced now. So one thing I didn't mention is that I'm actually running my camera off their battery here. So this camera does take a lot of batteries, so I don't know how long this will last. I might have to figure out a different solution, but that's what I'm doing now, or I might have to get multiple batteries like this. But I'll tell you this thing is heavy. You aren't going to be able to do shooting for long with this unless you're really strong. So one thing I want to do is rig it up on an easy rig and see how it works like that. Okay, so I've now rigged up the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro to be worn with the easy rig. Okay, so what I did is I put an eye bolt up here, but unfortunately the eye bolt that I got was not big enough, so I had to add a carabiner. This is not how I'd end up doing it, but just so it'll work for now. Okay, so one thing that's different is that once you hang it upside down, the balance changes everywhere. So all the balance has to be redone. But with the balance this way, actually my camera's happier because I can now put a battery on the back where I couldn't before. So this is crucial because in my test, the Zhiyun battery only ran my camera for maybe 15 minutes. This camera is a battery hog. It's great to be able to have batteries that you can replace that are just for the camera. So I'm relatively new with the Easy Rig. I need more practice with it, so I'm not going to be the best operator, but I'm going to throw it on and show you what I can do. Okay, so we now have it connected to the Easy Rig. So one thing that's nice about this setup, you can keep your right hand here where you can do the wireless focus that comes with it. And also right next to it is your joystick. So if you're doing any joystick moves, it's right here. And your zoom control is down by your left hand now. I personally don't like to zoom during shots, but it's great to be here so you can quickly reframe. The one drawback to this is that you can't really get that high. You know, you can get maybe this high, but that's it. Okay, so honestly, flying this thing with the Easy Rig was much harder than I thought. There's just something that was floating around on me and I had a hard time. I think I just need to practice with it and get used to it. It's definitely easier for me to operate at stick mode, especially with the A7s. With this camera, it's just too heavy. The great thing about the Easy Rig is that it puts all the weight on your hips instead of right in your arms, and you can definitely operate for much, much longer. So in the end, after stripping everything down on my Varicam LT, the final weight actually ended up being 12 pounds instead of 14 pounds. I lost a couple pounds off it just to get it to balance correctly. So I have heard some complaints about this gimbal shaking on you. And actually on that first music video, we did get some shaking. But it's all about balancing it properly. So once you balance it properly, the shaking will go away. And you also need to put your motor on the right setting. So for example, on my A7S II, I put the motor on the lowest setting. And then for my Varicam LT, I bring the motor up to the high setting. There is actually an ultra setting too, but the high setting worked pretty good. Okay, so this is on PF mode. PF is just pan. So if I go here to you, I can pan it, but I cannot tilt down. Do you see when I try to tilt down, it just stays level. And I cannot roll it. So again, PF is just pan. Okay, so then the next one is follow mode. So follow mode is similar to the pan follow mode, but your tilt works. So now if I tilt down, my camera's going to tilt down too. If I tilt up, my camera will tilt up. Again, the roll axis is not affected. So if I roll it, nothing is happening here. Another mode is the go mode. I like this mode because it's almost like a kind of a handheld mode where the camera is very responsive. So, you know, it might be slightly jerky, so you got to be careful with it. So again, on the handle, there's a POV mode. Now the roll works. So if you do want to roll your camera to kind of get one of those shots. So if you see some of the footage from the EDM music event that I shot, I use this mode quite a bit. There's also the lock mode. What the lock mode does, if you see right now, my camera's pointing this way, it's gonna stay pointing that way no matter what I do. So if you wanna go straight at something, this is a good mode to have. So what you would do, you would get your joystick and figure out exactly where you want to be locked off at. And then once you are, no matter what you do, it's staying that direction. Now, of course, if you go sideways, it will kind of like track, like you're doing a tracking dolly shot this way. Okay, so then the next one is vortex mode. So it goes into the undersling mode, and then you can use the joystick to turn it. So you can come in on something, turning, come out, whatever. And down here, this is just to recenter it. If you hit the recenter mode, it automatically brings it right back to center. There's one more mode, which to me is kind of ridiculous, but there's a selfie mode. So if you hit this front button 3 times, it'll come around to selfie mode. And I guess you can do a selfie with this thing. It would be pretty difficult. So, and yeah, the selfie mode. Okay, so that's the modes. The Crane 3S Pro version comes with the wireless transmitter. So what the wireless transmitter does, it'll transmit to the app on your phone, and if you buy the receiver, which is separate, it'll transmit to the monitor. Earlier I had it going to the phone, but now I have the receiver in line, and I got my small HD monitor, which is feeding. For a low-cost wireless transmitter receiver, it's good, but it's definitely not totally pro. But it's very affordable and gets the job done. There is a delay though. There is probably, I would say, about 10 to 15 frame delay. So I don't know if you can see it here. Let's see, here's my hand. So it's about that much of a delay. So just keep that in mind. You can still pull focus with it, but there is that little bit of delay. Okay, so let's check out the ZY Play app. So when it opens up, you got to scroll to the device you're using. You would think it's a Crane 3S, but we're actually using the wireless transmitter so we can get video. So you want to go scroll down to the wireless transmitter. So hit connect now. Now what it's going to do, it's going to send you to your network. Click the Zhiyun network there. So now it's connecting. Okay. So now you just hit enter. You hit this button right there to bring up the video. Okay, so here's your video. So on the very top left here, this button here is where you can change your password, but what's important that I didn't know, this little button here will bring up your Wi-Fi channels. So it's a really cool graph that they bring up. When I first got the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro, my reception wasn't great, so it wasn't auto, but I went in there and changed it to one of the channels, and it was solid then. So this here's your joystick, which you can operate your camera from your phone. I'm not very good at it. Maybe if you're a gamer, you'd be better. This button here will recenter. There's a lot of settings in here. So first, this is the stabilizer settings. So you can change your strength that you're on. So right now I'm on low because I'm using the A7s. There's zoom sensitivity, your focus sensitivity. All these you can set right here. So when you hit the image button, you get your histograms. You have false color. You have your zebras. You have this, which I think just shows your peaking. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Here's your focus peaking. So whatever's in focus, it's going to have the red line around it. This here will change your colors. So I know a lot of people who like to pull focus in black and white. So if you want to do that, that's where you set it. This here is how you can load some LUTs here. This is your zoom. So we're 1 to 1. Now we're zooming in 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. So those are your zooms. Okay, here, this is pretty cool. This is your grids. So if you want the rule of thirds grid, here it is right here. The golden ratio grid, or just a big grid like this. That's your grids. Okay, next. So this here's your aspect ratio. So this just dropped us down to 16 by 9. There's 4 by 3. There's 9 by 16. So this here are your safety markers if you want safety markers. So there's 90%, 85%, 80%, and off. And this one here just flips the screen. Let's turn that off for now. And then here's where you add your LUTs. Follow focus. So I have that on right now. So let's go back. So here you have your focus over here and your zoom over here. Okay, so let's throw back on our peaking and then go to our follow focus. So now from here you can change your focus. So you can do it all right from the app. So, and over here is your zoom. So I think I'm totally wide now, so let's go to telephoto. Oh, nope, I'm totally telephotoed, so let's go wide. Okay, so that's a 16 millimeter of my lens. So again, I don't know if you can really operate from here, but you can definitely set things up from here. Okay, so next is the control mode. So the different controls we have the joystick control, which I just showed you. We have the motion control. So this is really cool. Once you turn this on, basically when you move your phone, it moves your camera. So let me see if I can move it here. Now we're moving it up. Now we're moving it down. Come on over. Come over this way. So super cool. Okay, and the final thing to show you is this. So when you click on this, whatever you highlight, it will follow. So it'll make it the center of frame, and then if it moves, it will move with it. So let me go over there and move it, and you can check it out. As we move it. And going back. Seems to feel to be a little bit jerky on this side. I think I've seen it work better on faces. The last thing is you can start and stop your record right from here. You probably heard my camera turn on there. It shows you the time you're recording. You can stop. For cameras that are supported, up here there'll be buttons for you to change your ISO, your shutter speed, and your f-stop. So that's all really cool. So you can change everything right here from the app. Okay, so I definitely should give that a disclaimer that I'm not usually the gimbal operator. I've done some simple gimbal work, but on the features that I do or on big projects, I'll hire an operator that has much more experience than I do. So in the summer of 2019, I shot a feature film called Full Out 2, which will be on Netflix actually this January. And for that film, my B-cam operator operated a gimbal. So we did put the same Varicam LT, but we used a Ronin 2. It performed great. It was a great gimbal, but the Ronin 2 is over $8,000, where this is $1,200 for the Pro version, or if you're just getting it without the Pro accessories, I think it's around $700, so super affordable. Now, would I trust this to do a feature film? I'm not sure yet. I'd have to do more testing. So I've only done a little bit of testing with it, but from what I see so far, I like it. So as far as flying a large camera like my Varicam LT, so it works pretty good. So there were some compromises I had to make because of just to get it balanced right and not have it hit the back. But once I did that, it worked good. One thing, if you have a camera that's not as long as this camera, it would definitely work better, I would say. So I've definitely seen some reds flown on here with great success. The Varicam LT is definitely pushing it because of its length, but in the end, once I got it balanced, it worked out. Okay, so my final thoughts on the Zhiyun CRANE 3S Pro. Okay, so I'm definitely impressed. So the app is cool. I like the ergonomics of it. The wireless transmitter is okay. So for the money, it's good, but for sure it's not your top-end wireless transmitter. There is some lag time, so just be aware of that. The wireless focus and zoom, same thing. They're good. They're not going to be like your top-end gear. But for the price you're paying for this, it's amazing. If you're looking for a gimbal that can handle a heavier payload that's at a good price, this could be the one for you.
This is a CineD review, supported by B&H and CVP.